Welcome back to Tech Forward, everyone. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Mark. And Jenny, I was just thinking about how much we rely on everything being, availables online these days. Shopping, banking, work, streaming, you name it.
Right? It's become the digital backbone of modern life, hasn't it? Which makes it even more unsettling when things suddenly aren't available. When a service you depend on just vanishes off the map.
Exactly. And often, that vanishing act isn't just a random technical glitch, like someone tripping over a cable in the server room. Though that probably still happens. Sometimes, it's deliberate. We're talking about DDoS attacks, distributed denial of service.
Okay, DDoS. I've definitely heard the term thrown around, usually in news reports after some big website or gaming network goes down. Break it down for us, Mark. What's actually happening under the hood?
Sure thing. So picture a popular store with just one main entrance. Now imagine thousands, maybe even millions, of automated bots, like mindless little robots, all trying to cram through that single doorway at the exact same moment. They aren't there to buy anything, mind you. Their only goal is to block the entrance completely.
So real customers, people trying to actually use the service, can't get in because the digital doorway is just jammed solid with junk traffic? Like a massive, coordinated traffic jam on the information superhighway?
Precisely. They flood the target. Could be a website, a specific application server, sometimes the entire network infrastructure. With so much garbage traffic that it gets overwhelmed, it simply can't sort through the noise to respond to legitimate requests anymore. For businesses, this means downtime, which translates directly to lost revenue, frustrated customers, and a damaged reputation. It's a serious headache, and a costly one.
And I'm guessing these aren't simple things to just swat away?
Oh, definitely not. The attackers are constantly refining their methods. Attacks are getting more sophisticated, using vast networks of compromised devices. Things like insecure routers, cameras, even smart fridges, collectively known as botnets, to launch these floods from all over the world. Defending against them is this continuous, high-stakes cat-and-mouse game.
Which brings us neatly to today's topic, right? Because the cat, in this scenario, the defender, is starting to use some pretty advanced tools itself. We're talking about artificial intelligence.
Yes. AI is stepping into the cybersecurity ring in a big way, and we're going to look specifically at how one company, Corero Network Security, is approaching this challenge. They've been focused on DDoS protection for a good while, but their recent moves integrating AI are particularly interesting.
Okay, Corero. And what's catching your eye about their strategy? Is it just about slapping an AI-powered label on the box for marketing buzz?
Well, that's what's refreshing. Their whole messaging seems geared towards, let's call it, substance over hype. They aren't just shouting AI from the rooftops, like it's magic pixie dust. Instead, they're focusing on explaining how *AI actually improves the performance and effectiveness of their systems in tangible ways. It's a welcome angle, especially with all the AI enthusiasm flying around right now.
Substance over hype. I like that. So, rewind a bit. Before sophisticated AI entered the picture, how did companies typically try to fend off these DDoS floods?
Traditionally, defenses involved methods like signature-based detection, basically looking for known fingerprints or patterns of previous attacks. Think of it like having a list of known troublemakers. Another common technique is rate limiting, which is like putting a turnstile at the store entrance and saying, okay, only 10 people can enter per second.
But I imagine attackers found ways around those?
Oh yeah. Attackers get clever. They learn to disguise their malicious traffic to look more like legitimate users. They started using low and slow attacks, sending smaller amounts of traffic over longer periods, trying to fly under the radar of those rate limits, or they'd rapidly change their attack vectors, their fingerprints, making signature matching less effective.
So the older methods struggled with subtlety, disguise, and rapidly evolving threats? They might block the obvious stuff, but miss the sneaky attacks? Or maybe even block legitimate users by mistake?
Exactly right. They could be too slow to react to new attack types, or they could generate a lot of false positives, accidentally blocking real users or critical services because the rules were too blunt. This is where AI starts to make a real difference. AI algorithms, particularly machine learning, are much better suited to spotting subtle anomalies and complex patterns in massive datasets, and they can do it in near real time.
Okay, so AI acts like a much smarter, much faster bouncer at the digital doorway, one that can tell the difference between a genuine customer who just looks a bit unusual and a bot wearing a cheap disguise?
That's a great analogy. Laughs. A bouncer that can almost instantly analyze millions of incoming connections, understand the context, and identify the troublemakers without accidentally kicking out the VIPs. Corero integrates this AI capability within their core DDoS protection platform, which they call SmartWall ONE.
SmartWall ONE. Catchy name. What's the significance of the one? Does it imply it's an all-in-one solution?
I think that's precisely the idea. It represents their integrated approach. It's not just software you install somewhere. It combines specialized hardware appliances designed for high performance, intelligent software doing the analysis, and potentially cloud-based components too. The core concept is to provide defense right at the edge of the network, the first point of entry, to inspect and intercept attacks before they penetrate deeper and cause damage.
Positioned right at the perimeter, like a guard tower. And AI makes this smart wall. Well, smarter?
Correct. The AI enhances the platform's ability to perform behavioral analysis on the traffic. Instead of just relying on fixed rules or known bad signatures, it learns what normal traffic patterns look like for that specific network, what protocols are used, typical volumes, common sources, and destinations. Then, it can flag significant deviations from that baseline much quicker and more accurately than purely rule-based systems ever could.
Got it. Learning the normal rhythm of the network to instantly spot things that are out of sync. But Corero mentioned something else in their recent announcements too, didn't they? Something beyond just the core blocking. Core maybe?
Ah, yes, good memory. The core ecosystem. That stands for Corero Observability and Resiliency Ecosystem. This seems to be a newer, complementary layer they're building out, focusing heavily on giving security teams much better visibility times what's happening, and more intelligent control over their defenses. Again, with ACI playing a key role.
Observability. So basically, making it easier to *see and *understand what the heck is going on, especially during a chaotic attack. How does AI help with that visibility?
One of the really interesting features they've highlighted is the ability to use natural language queries. Now, think about the traditional process. A security analyst suspecting something might have to write complex, specialized database queries, maybe sift through mountains of log files from different systems.
Sounds tedious and time-consuming, especially when the clock is ticking during an incident. Like trying to find a specific needle in a massive, constantly growing haystack.
Exactly. With this approach, the promise is that an analyst could potentially just times the system a question in plain English. Something like, show me all traffic spikes from unknown IP addresses in Eastern Europe targeting our primary web application over the last 30 minutes that deviate from the established baseline. Or, are there any connections exhibiting patterns associated with the latest known botnet tactics?
Okay, hold on. So you can just talk to your security system? Like using Siri or Alexa, but instead of asking for the weather, you're asking about sophisticated network threats?
That seems to be the direction they're moving in. It dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for deep threat hunting and rapid incident analysis. It democratizes that capability beyond just the hardcore query language experts. Plus, a key part of Core is its focus on multi-source correlation. It's designed to ingest data not just from the SmartWall platform itself, but potentially from other security tools, threat intelligence feeds, network flow data, maybe even application logs.
Ah, so it connects the dots automatically? Instead of a human analyst having to manually pull up data from 5 different dashboards and try to piece together the puzzle?
You got it. It helps identify those really sophisticated, multi-vector attacks that might look innocuous or like random noise if you only look at one data point in isolation. But when you correlate activity across different systems, seeing reconnaissance scans followed by exploit attempts targeting a specific service, coinciding with a surge in anomalous traffic, the malicious intent becomes clear. AI is particularly well suited for finding those hidden correlations buried within vast amounts of disparate data.
That sounds incredibly useful for a security team. It doesn't just give them data, it helps provide context and potential insights, almost like giving them analytical superpowers.
It definitely augments their capabilities, which brings us to another key point Corero seems to emphasize consistently. This AI integration is not about replacing the human experts in the Security Operations Center, the society.
Ah, there it is. The classic AI is coming for our jobs concern. It always seems to pop up in these discussions.
Right? And it's a valid concern to discuss, but Corero is quite clear in their messaging. Their AI, including the parts they describe as having agentic capabilities, is designed to *assist and *empower times human operators, not make them redundant. Think of it as amplifying human expertise, handling the repetitive, high-volume tasks so humans can focus on the complex, nuanced threats.
Okay, agentic capabilities. Let's unpack that a bit. What does that mean in practical terms for DDoS defense? Is the AI making strategic decisions entirely on its own?
It generally means the AI can take certain autonomous actions based on its analysis, but crucially, within carefully defined parameters and policies set by the humans. For DDoS mitigation, this speed is vital. You often need sub-second response times to effectively block an attack before it causes significant disruption. An agentic AI component could, for example, automatically identify a specific malicious traffic pattern hitting a web server and instantly apply a filtering rule to block just that traffic, without waiting for a human analyst to review and click a button.
Right, so it can react almost instantaneously to block something clearly identifiable as malicious, much faster than a human could possibly react through a console?
Essentially, yes. For those clear-cut cases, but the overall strategy, the setting of those boundaries, the fine-tuning of the AI's sensitivity, and especially the investigation of ambiguous events or brand-new, unforeseen attack types, that still heavily relies on human judgment, experience, and oversight. The AI handles the high-volume, obvious noise, freeing up the human experts for the strategic thinking and the complex investigations.
That balance feels important. You get the raw speed and processing power of automation for the immediate threats, but you retain the critical thinking and adaptability of experienced professionals for the bigger picture. It addresses some of those concerns about AI running wild.
It's a pragmatic approach, grounded in operational reality. And speaking of reality and performance, Corero made some pretty attention-grabbing claims about speed in their comparisons. They mentioned being significantly faster. I think the figure quoted was up to 20 times faster in some specific tests than certain competitors, particularly when it comes to mitigation latency.
20 times faster? That sounds quite substantial. What exactly is mitigation latency measuring, and why does it matter so much?
Mitigation latency is the critical time delay between the moment the system times detects the start of a DDoS attack and the moment it actually blocks times or mitigates that malicious traffic. In the world of DDoS, milliseconds count. If your detection is fast, but your mitigation response takes seconds, that's still enough time for a high-volume attack to potentially overwhelm your servers or saturate your internet bandwidth. Corero is aiming for ultra-low latency. In that response, they've mentioned target figures consistently under 50 milliseconds.
Wow, less than 50 milliseconds. That's faster than a blink of an eye. So, if they can reliably detect and times block that quickly,
then the attack ideally has minimal to zero perceivable impact on legitimate users and services. That's the ultimate goal. Seamless, near-instant protection that keeps things running smoothly. Lower latency directly translates to less disruption, less damage.
Okay, that ties back neatly to their substance over hype angle you mentioned earlier, focusing on a concrete, measurable performance metric like latency reduction, something that directly impacts the user experience and business continuity, rather than just vague claims about AI power.
I think so too. It's a metric that resonates because it addresses a core pain point of DDoS defense. Fast detection is good, but fast times and effective times mitigation is what actually solves the problem.
All right, the tech sounds impressive, and the focus on practical benefits like speed and better visibility is clear. But let's circle back to the counter-arguments and potential downsides we touched on earlier. What about the ethical considerations or practical challenges? We talked about human oversight. But what else?
Good point. We should definitely address those. One major concern, as highlighted in research like that from Carolyn Ryder, is the potential for bias in AI algorithms. In DDoS, this isn't typically about social bias, but more about the risk of the AI misinterpreting legitimate but unusual traffic patterns as malicious. Imagine a sudden, legitimate surge in traffic due to a viral marketing campaign. You wouldn't want the AI to mistakenly block all those potential new customers.
Right. Ensuring the smart bouncer doesn't accidentally block a legitimate flash mob of customers just because they all showed up at once and look a bit different from the usual crowd?
Laughs. Exactly. That's why the human element remains indispensable for validation, for fine-tuning the AI's sensitivity, and for investigating those edge cases. Transparency is also vital. Security teams need to understand why times the AI flagged certain traffic or made a specific blocking decision. It can't just be an inscrutable black box.
And tools like Corero's core ecosystem, with its natural language queries, potentially help with that? Allowing analysts to probe the AI's reasoning?
That seems to be the intention. Promoting explainable AI, or XAI, is crucial in critical fields like security. Then there's the job displacement question we mentioned. Corero emphasizes augmentation. Researchers like Kagerman have noted the broader trend of AI impacting workforces. The optimistic view is that it shifts roles towards higher-level skills, managing the AI, interpreting its findings, strategic threat hunting. But there's still underlying anxiety about automation.
So it potentially makes the job less about manual log sifting and more about strategic oversight and investigation? Requires upskilling, perhaps?
Precisely. It could make security roles more effective and perhaps more engaging, letting analysts focus on the truly challenging threats rather than drowning in data. Another practical hurdle, mentioned in studies looking at ASI adoption like one by Seidler and Lurch, is the complexity and cost. Implementing and managing sophisticated AI-driven security systems isn't trivial. While integrated platforms like SmartWall ONE might aim for simplicity, there's still an investment in technology and potentially training.
Is this kind of advanced protection mainly accessible to large enterprises right now? Or are solutions becoming available for smaller organizations too?
That's a key question. Historically, high-end DDoS mitigation was often complex and expensive. Companies like Corero offer various deployment models, including services targeted at hosting providers and managed security service providers, which can, in turn, make protection more accessible to smaller businesses who might not have the resources to manage it themselves. But yes, the initial investment and required expertise can still be a barrier for some.
Okay, that makes sense. So, looking ahead, Mark, where do you see this heading? What are the next steps for AI in DDoS protection, and specifically for Corero's approach based on what they've signaled?
Well, Corero themselves have framed this as a strategic, phased integration of AI. So, logically, we'll likely see deeper AI capabilities rolled out across their portfolio over time. I strongly expect more sophisticated times predictive times analytics. Imagine the AI identifying precursor activities, like reconnaissance scans from potential botnets, or unusual probing of network ports, and flagging a heightened risk before times the main flood of attack traffic even begins.
Getting ahead of the curve? Moving from purely reactive defense to something more proactive?
That's the ultimate goal for many in cybersecurity. Also, expect enhanced automation in the response loop. Perhaps the AI suggesting optimal mitigation strategies for human approval in complex cases, or even being trusted to automatically deploy more complex countermeasures for known, high-confidence threat patterns. And that natural language interface we discussed? I bet that gets progressively more powerful and intuitive.
It feels like the whole security landscape is shifting towards these more integrated, intelligent ecosystems, doesn't it? Where different security tools, firewalls, endpoint protection, threat intelligence, DDoS mitigation, are no longer operating in isolation, but are sharing data and insights, often orchestrated or analyzed by AI.
I completely agree. The siloed approach to security is proving less and less effective against coordinated, multi-stage attacks. Corero's core ecosystem definitely fits into that broader trend, bringing diverse data sources together for that holistic, observable view. We might even see AI used more creatively on the defensive side in the future, perhaps in generating dynamic decoys or honeypots to actively confuse and mislead attackers, learning from their attempts.
Fighting fire with fire? Or maybe fighting automated attacks with smarter, AI-driven defenses?
Chuckles. Something like that. It's a continuous technological arms race, really, as experts like Coleus and Kombarakis point out. Staying ahead requires constant innovation and blending AI capabilities with deep human expertise.
So wrapping up our discussion on Corero and their AI integration for DDoS protection, the key takeaways seem to be a deliberate focus on measurable outcomes like speed and latency, not just AI buzzwords, a pragmatic blend of AI-driven automation for speed combined with essential human oversight and control, and building towards a more integrated, observable security posture with platforms like SmartWall ONE and the Core ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that captures it well, Jenny. It's less about showcasing flashy AI tricks and more about demonstrating how these intelligent capabilities fundamentally improve the core tasks of DDoS protection, making it faster, more accurate, and more manageable for the defenders. That emphasis on substance is certainly worth keeping an eye on.
It's a hugely complex area, but absolutely vital for keeping our increasingly digital world operational. It'll be fascinating to see how this evolves, how attackers respond, and how companies like Corero continue to adapt their strategies.
Indeed. The threats certainly aren't taking a break, so the defenses need to keep getting smarter, faster, and more integrated.
All right, that's all the time we have for today on Tech Forward. A big thank you to Mark for guiding us through the intricacies of DDoS, AI, and Correro's approach.
Always a pleasure, Jenny. Stay safe out there, everyone, digitally speaking.
You too, Mark. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think AI is the ultimate answer to DDoS, or are the challenges too great? Find us on social media and let us know. Join us next time for another look at the technologies shaping our future. Bye for now.